Welcome back to another episode of the Cycle Podcast, a show where we cover 4 trending MLB topics in 20 minutes or less. Joining me once again is Josh, a.k.a. Kablumski. Josh, welcome back. How are you doing today, my friend?
And I'm pumped. I'm good. Thanks for having me again. Like always, I'm ready for the show. I'm ready to give the followers what they want to hear, and let's get this show pumping.
Now, the followers will get what they want to hear unless they are Boston Red Sox fans. So without further ado, everyone who's watching this episode knows what the big news is. Let's get right into that. Sorry, buddy. Our producer, the Red Sox fan, literally texting me on the subway in Boston or the train saying that he was worried he was going to throw up on the train because he got the news. Unbelievable.
That sucks.
Without any further chit chat, let's get right into it. As we foreshadowed, our first topic is going to be the blockbuster and, frankly, quite shocking trade of Rafael Devers from the Boston Red Sox to the San Francisco Giants. The trade was Jordan Hicks, Kyle Harrison, James Tibbs III, outfield prospect, and then Jose Bayo, I believe, a prospect who is down in the developmental leagues, isn't going to make any noise for a long time if he makes it to the pros. So my initial thought when in our group chat, someone said Rafael Devers is traded to the San Francisco Giants. The first 2 names I'm thinking are Bryce Eldridge and Hayden Birdsong. If the Red Sox want to have any chance to compete this year, that is the direction I think they would have gone. However, Bryce Eldridge not in the package at all, despite the Red Sox initially telling San Francisco that he had to be the centerpiece of the package. So my question is, if San Francisco said no, click. Why don't you hang up the phone, call any other competing team, any other team in the league that has a shot to compete this year. You could have gone to Detroit. You could have called the Cubs. You could have called Seattle. Anybody else is going to give you more for this guy than you got. Now, Tibbs is an interesting prospect. He was San Francisco's first overall pick in 2024. He's an outfield prospect. He's in Double-A right now, projected to make his big league debut in 2026. So he's not that far off, and he's a talented kid. But my biggest issue is the way the Red Sox are trying to spin this. They have said publicly, we're not waving the white flag on this season. We can compete. No, you fucking can't. This team did not get better in any way. And you could say Hicks going to the bullpen, you have another hard-throwing arm coming out of the bullpen. That's not going to replace even a fraction of what Devers is giving you. He's the cornerstone of the franchise. He is your best player. He's a perennial MVP candidate. If you are going to trade him, at least be honest with your fans and say, dude, we're throwing into the towel on this season. We're building for the future, because that's what this was. Harrison is not going to help you this year. He's 23 years old. They sent him to the minors. Tibbs is not going to help you this year. He may help you next year or the following. You have this core of Duran, Casas, Roman Anthony, all these Marcelo Meyer, all these guys who in 2 or 3 years, that looks like a potential World Series core. Be honest with your fan base. Devers wanted out because he was pissed that you brought in Bregman, and he demanded a trade. He did not have a no-trade clause. If they wanted to, they could have shipped him off to Tampa Bay. No offense. They could have shipped him off to the fucking White Sox if they wanted to. Yeah. Right. It almost seems like they chose a destination that may have been favorable for him. Instead of going after the move that gave you the best chance to compete this year or in the future, if that's what you're really up to, which it is. So, Josh, I'll turn it over to you. Give me your take on this. I assume it's fairly similar to what I've been saying.
Oh, yeah. I'm on the same page with you. I was, first of all, shocked. This kind of reminded me of like the Luka trade in the NBA, kind of caught everybody off guard. And it was like, why? Like, you really didn't get much back in return. I get it. Real quick, though, the Devers was the last remaining player, if I'm not mistaken, from the 2000, was it?
18?
18, excuse me. had a blank there. And it's interesting that they sent three of those members over there, Mookie Betts, Bogarts, and now Devers to the West Coast. I think that was a strategy behind the whole contractual part of the trade, just because of the whole taxes that the California or West Coast has to offer. It kind of cuts their pay down. So it kind of is like, hey, we're not going to send you to the Rays. Like, but hey, you're gonna get a pay cut somehow, some way. So go f yourself. So that's one take that I got on it. Harrison, I feel got the short end of the stick. He was not like a dominant pitcher by any means, but man, he looked like he was trending upwards, and I thought he was gonna stay up. Maybe they'll still develop him or get him familiar with the rotation somewhat, and then they sent him straight to the minor leagues when he was having somewhat of a good year up in the bigs. So that was one take that I got from that. Also, the division that they're in now is does it take a toll as far as they compete in the division on both fronts, San Fran and on Boston. Boston obviously wasn't going to make a push for the playoffs like you mentioned, and they're not going to make a push now. That division is just really, really tough. Hicks is not the answer. Okay, just because he throws 100 plus every time does not mean that you are an absolute pitcher.
He's been getting
People need to
crushed this
realize
year.
that, and that's another thing. ERA over 6 plus something like that. So when you throw 100 miles an hour, just because you throw hard does not mean that you are a pitcher. That means you are a thrower. So I don't think that's the end all be all for that. This trade also reminds me of the Orioles back in the day, where they're trying to build, like you mentioned, a nucleus, a core of young players. But we got to remember, it kind of backfired this year on the Orioles. So there's something to think about in the future. You made all the great points, but I just was shocked and scratching my head after this trade.
I agree. And I think we'll leave it at that because we're out of time. Obviously, there's a lot more to be said and dissected.
Yes,
If you
sorry.
have a take that we didn't cover, go ahead, leave it in the comments for us. We'll read that and reply. Our second segment today is going to be Who's Hot. And I've got a guy who has really burst onto the scene recently, very likely to make an all-star team this year. Hunter
Yeah,
Goodman from Colorado.
yeah.
Very impressive stretch of 15 games here. Statistically, he's had 10 runs scored, 5 home runs, 12 RBIs. What's super interesting about him is how he's doing this as far as slugging. He's got an OPS of 1.123, which is outstanding. Of
Oh
his
yeah.
18 hits in the last 15 days, he has 5 home runs, 5 doubles, 2 triples. So he's not just a big, slow, power hitting catcher like we
Right.
typically see. Cal Raleigh esque guy that hits a lot of home runs, also hits a lot of singles. Hunter Goodman has experience playing the outfield as well coming up. So he's
Right.
not slow. He can run the bases. And I'm starting to see where Colorado could find some success in coming years. We've had some Michael Toglia sightings recently. They obviously have Ezekiel Tovar over there. They have some decent prospects coming up.
Oh yeah.
I still expect them to move Ryan McMahon this offseason. But guys like Goodman are maybe giving them a possible bridge forward from a team at the beginning of the year you called a double-A roster. They are still awful. The team is awful.
At best.
Pitching staff
Yeah.
is terrible. But
Right.
a few bright spots at least, and maybe some hope on the horizon if they can put together smart deals with some of their aging veterans, bring in some more young talent, and just like we're saying with the Red Sox, start to piece together that core for the future. I really like your pick, even though it's not a guy I like. It is encouraging to see who coming back from injury and getting hot.
Mr. Ronald Acuna Jr. Mr. Ronald Acuna Jr. to me is a player that I like to watch. I'm a very emotional, passionate player, and sometimes it could come as arrogance or end up as cockiness. But at the end of the day, when you play with passion and that excitement of the game, it's not for everybody, right? And I've always been a fan on how he reacts. I feel like that was an element of the game of baseball that some people didn't really like, but I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
That the excitement when you make a big play or big hit, stuff like that. You know, the old saying, "Act like you've been there before." I get that, but when a big moment comes up, man, let it ride. Let it ride. I'm a big player on proponent of that. But let's run into this stats real quick. The guy's been on a fiery hot start right now, or a hot streak in the past 15 games. I think he's batting close to 444, if I'm not mistaken, as far as the batting average. His OPS, he has 4 dingers. His OPS was, excuse me, um, 686. So that's something that we're working with there. But the fact that he
I
is
believe. Hold on. I
on
believe that's his slugging percentage. I'm sorry. Is that his
did I read it
slugging?
wrong?
686 slugging?
My fault.
No,
My
you're
fault.
good.
733 slugging. 733 slugging. That was my fault there. Um, and he's only been doing this with the RBIs has not been there for him, but his OPS is 1.295.
Phenomenal.
With that, like a huh?
Phenomenal.
The guy's on a tear. And we're talking about a player that on a team that was supposed to be somewhat of a competitor, somewhat of a team that was going to be there in the long run. They haven't been doing that. For them to be doing that, having him have this season in a bright spot, a shining star in a bright spot is phenomenal. I'm rooting for him. I'm happy he came back strong. He came back with a chip on his shoulder. And listen, big time players and faces of the franchise, when they come back, they're supposed to do what he is doing. It's not, hey, take your time, come back. You know, whenever you get on a hot streak, no, 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 no. If you're a big time player, we expect you to come in, make a spark. His first at bat, I believe, was a bomb. So like he is doing everything he can in his power to make sure his team is somewhat successful. But real quick before I am done on your player, he reminds me a little bit of Andy Rodriguez for the Pirates and Melendez, who used to play for your Royals, who it wasn't your typical catcher. He was a catcher that was also an athlete on the field. You could put him anywhere on the field. He can steal bases. He can hit for average. You don't find, like you mentioned, you don't find that in catchers. That is something that is a lost art for catchers, and I'm just happy that Goodman is finding it and just being that lone star in Colorado right now.
Yeah, and like we're going to talk about here in a minute when we fill out our All-Star ballots. He is a guy that I considered in the National League. Didn't get my vote, but the Rockies have to have somebody on the All-Star team, and at this point, it's almost got to be him. So, congratulations in advance to Hunter Goodman for making your first All-Star team. Our third topic today is going to be our official All-Star ballots, which we filled out separate from each other without knowing each other's ballots. We're going to go through them together, see where we agree, where we disagree. And just remember, this is our personal All-Star ballots. Warning, there is some bias here. There are guys I like that I'm just going to vote for. So,
Right.
do you want to go by position or you want to go league by league?
Let's go by position. Let's go by positions.
So at first base in the American League, I have Jonathan Aranda. At first base in the National League, I have Pete Alonso.
Second check.
Check, same. All right. At second base, I have Lowe from Tampa Bay and Donovan from St. Louis. That's, of course, Brendan Donovan. Who do you got?
I do have Brendan Donovan. I would never pick Brendan Lau over there in Tampa Bay. I think we need to trade him. I got Josh Chisholm.
Your boy.
I like him. Swaggy.
He is. He's swagged out.
Swaggy
And
jazzy.
having a solid season. I'll give you that.
He really is, quietly.
At third base, I have Michael Garcia. And yes, he's over. I've got him over some other third basemen like Jose Ramirez. I'm a Royals fan, but I do think Garcia at least has a case. I would never just vote for a Royal because they're a Royal. On the other side, I have Gino Suarez from Arizona.
Nice.
Monster
I like
year, and he's gone on some stretches where he has been impossible to get out. Who are your third basemen?
Junior Caminero for Tampa. And then I also have Manny Machado over there in San Diego. Manny Machado he's aging like fine wine. He's also on a hot streak right now. I was actually going to pick him as one of my hot players right now. And he's just doing whatever he has to do at a higher age, a veteran-led team to keep them in contention in that division.
Love both of those picks, by the way. Nothing to argue there. Shortstop. This is the easiest one for me. I've got Bobby Witt Jr. Yes, over Jacob Wilson. Bobby Witt Jr. is a significantly better defender. He's been at the top of the league in doubles, extra base hits, stealing bases at a much higher rate again this year. And then on the other side of the ball of the league, I've got Francisco. Ooh, almost knocked my mic over. I'm getting too excited. Francisco Lindor,
Yes.
MVP candidate. I don't know
Yes.
really who you can put over him.
No. And I agree. I got both of those as well. Bobby Witt Jr. to me is a complete player. He's not one-sided. He's a 5-tool player, can do it all. And you look on the other side, very similar. Francisco Lindor also quietly having an MVP caliber season again, and leading the Mets to a great season so far.
So let's do outfield. I'll do American League outfield. You do your American League outfield. Then we'll go National League. I've got Riley Green, I've got Aaron Judge, and I've got Stephen Kwan. Obviously, outfield is so difficult to vote because there's so many players, and you don't have to go right field, center field, left field. Who do you got in the American League?
I try to keep it a little bit different. I was not trying to do so much chalk. I guess Aaron Judge is kind of chalky, but
you have to vote for him.
I went with Aaron. Yeah, Aaron Judge, of course, Jaron Duran, and Javi Baez, baby. Javi Baez, obviously the comeback player of the year, having a great comeback this year, just leading his team to a first place position right now in his division. I think he's having a great year right now, and I think he's deserving of an all-star vote.
Absolutely, he is. Yeah, I'm a Stephen Kwan guy. Love him.
Yeah, I like him too.
I'm a Riley Green guy. I had actually Riley Green. I laid a little bit down for him on American League MVP this year. He's not at that level, but I think he is a fringy type of guy in the future. National League, I've got Corbin Carroll, Pete Crow Armstrong, and James Wood. 3 elite 5-tool guys. What do you got?
You cannot go wrong with that outfield, honestly. I went a little bit different. I went with my guy, Ronald Acuna Jr. Obviously, I got to put him in the mix, especially when I talked about him being hot right now. PCA, MVP caliber season, MVP caliber player, all-around player, is making Chicago Cubs relevant again, is the cornerstone of that franchise. Sorry, Tucker, but he is taking over that franchise. And then last but not least is Jackson Merrill, another player that is helping that division or that team and making a point and a push to not only win that division, but make a push in the playoffs as well.
Then the easiest pick on the entire ballot, American League catcher, is Cal Raleigh.
Same.
If you don't put Cal Raleigh on your ballot, you're wrong. On the other side, I have Carson Kelly, who I believe is second place in all-star voting behind Will Smith. Will Smith, probably more deserving, but Carson Kelly is my fantasy catcher. I like him. He's having a real breakout season, and I wanted to reward that. Who's yours?
I agree. Great choices. I hate Will Smith. I would never vote for Will Smith. I don't think he's a good player. He plays catcher position terrible. Not a fan of his. I got obviously the big dumper in American League, but I got Francisco Alvarez for one or two reasons. Not only is he taking a pitching staff and making them relevant, but he's making them, compete at a very, very high level. He's controlling that pitching staff, controlling the base paths. He's just an all-around great defensively catcher, and his bat's not doing so bad either. So that's my vote right there.
And he's taken a rotation that was supposed to be the Achilles heel of the Mets team and turned into a strength, which is incredibly impressive. So I'll give him that one. So guys, don't forget, go on MLB.com, fill out your all-star ballots. You can vote up to 5 times a day, and it's just a fun way to look through some stats, see who's playing well, so you're prepared for the second half of the season. With that, let's move on to our final topic. Our fourth and final topic today is going to be covering some division leaders. There's been some shakeups in the standings, and we like to touch on it every once in a while. So I'm going to start in the American League. In the Central, Detroit out to a commanding lead over everybody else. Cleveland is 9.5 back, Minnesota 10 back, the Royals 11.5 back, and then the White Sox 23.5 back. Detroit is going to have
how many
23, 11.5.
I just wanted to hear that again.
I'm sorry. It's okay. Hey, it's okay. Detroit's going to have this division wrapped by the All-Star break. In the AL East, there is a surprise here. The Yankees at 42-30, only 2.5 games in front of your Tampa Bay Rays, who are storming back into relevancy at 40-33. Then you've got Toronto, Boston, and the Orioles. Orioles pretty much out of the mix at this point. In the AL West, Houston back on top, 42-31, 5 games ahead of Seattle, 6 games ahead of Texas, 6.5 games ahead of the Angels, and then the Athletics, 30-45, seemingly can't win after their hot start, other than a sweep of my Royals last week, unfortunately. In the National League, we've got the Mets back ahead of the Phillies. Last time we covered division leaders, the Phillies were ahead of the Mets. Then we have a big gap down to Atlanta, Washington, and Miami. The NL Central, Cubs pulling away. Brewers 6.5 games back, followed by Cincinnati, followed by St. Louis, followed by Pittsburgh. St. Louis just dropping spots seemingly every time I open the app. St. Louis has dropped down. And then the big division. We've got the Dodgers at 45-29, 3.5 games ahead of the Giants, 5 games ahead of San Diego, 8 games ahead of Arizona, and then 28.5 games back is Colorado. So I was going to say the last truly competitive division, top to bottom, NL West goes 4 deep. But the NL East is now a 2-team race between the Mets and the Phillies.
Yeah.
You have a tightening race in the AL East. So, Josh, I'm going to have you pick the AL East, the Yankees, 2.5 games ahead of the your Rays, who are half a game above Toronto. How do those 3 teams finish?
Rays are Yankees' Achilles heel. They've always been that. They've always had their numbers for years, and they still are going to be that. Toronto, like you mentioned, is in the mix. I still feel like I don't realistically, not speaking as a fan, realistically, I don't think we win the division. I think we get a high seed wild card spot. The Yankees are just just taking over. You get a Triple Crown winner or a future Triple Crown winner over there. So that's going to be a tough division to win, but we are always, as long as we are around and in the mix, heading towards August, September timeframe, we can be a team to be reckoned with for sure.
Yeah, I've got it. New York, Tampa Bay, Toronto.
Okay.
The Mets and the Phillies. Who wins that division?
Well, I had the Mets coming out of the NL, excuse me. So I'm gonna stick with it, man. This team has been fighting. Every game, they're a complete team that just is just maybe a player or two away, or maybe like a win or two away that can really, build that team's chemistry up a little bit, that motivation to keep it going. I think they're there. I think they're there.
They need a legit one. They need a legit first starter.
Exactly.
If they do that, they win the division. If they don't, I'll give it to the Phillies because the Phillies have more veteran experience. Obviously, you have Lindor, Alonso, Soto. I just like the way the Phillies roster is compiled a little bit better. If the Mets go out and get a legit starter to anchor that rotation, the kind of guy that can get you 2 wins in a playoff series, then I'll give it to them. And wrapping it up, the Dodgers, 3.5 games ahead of San Francisco, who are 2.5 games ahead of San Diego. How do you have those 3 finishing the year?
Yeah. As you can tell, I was talking about Fernando Tatis in another segment. I talk about Jackson Merrill being an all-star guy. They got the pieces, guys. This team, I mentioned it before. They got this team in the sights for years now. They've always had the Dodgers. They know what they need to do to get there. They know that if they play it slow, whatever they need to do, as long as they're in the mix, somewhat like the Rays, if they're in the mix, they're going to compete. I honestly, truly believe that they're going to have enough firepower, especially if the injuries keep on going with the Dodgers. They have enough firepower. The chemistry's there. The core nucleus is there. You talk about veteran leadership. It's all there. And I think that it's going to be tough to take that division away from San Diego when it's all said and done.
I would have to go with Rafael Devers joining the Giants. I have it San Francisco, Dodgers, San Diego, all 3 of them separated by 3 games. I'm talking San Francisco a game ahead of the Dodgers, who are a game ahead of the Padres. I have all 3 of them making the playoffs.
I can see that as well.
Dodgers and the Padres as the 1 and 2 in the wild card. And then I've got the Mets as a wild card as well. So with that, we've used our time. We've talked about everything we need to talk about. Josh, thank you for joining us again. Everyone who's viewing, thank you for watching.
Absolutely.
Once again, Alex, I'm sorry about your loss of Rafael Devers, but future's still bright. So just take a breath there, pal.
Hey, Alex, just remember that you got Daniel Jones as your quarterback for the Colts, so you still got something going for you.
Absolutely. Hey, he's a good guy. We'll cut him some slack. Guys, we'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in once again.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.